Alright class, it's a new week in our digital learning and communication class, and now we're talking into a new unit. We're getting into a new unit on tools. Well, synchronous digital communication is the unit, and we're learning about tools for synchronous digital communication this week. So that's what we'll be talking about. So yeah, take a look at these different items that you have for the week, but I think what I'll first introduce is where we're going. And on October 27th is due an assignment. So if you are an undergraduate student or in the 410 class, you have a different assignment than if you are in the 510 class or as a graduate student. So for graduate students, both assignments require you to present to a group and do a live session with a group of people. And there's some difficulties in setting this up, and so I'm kind of doing a simple assignment here just to allow you to get your feet wet into teaching and learning online and having a live session with the class. So here's the assignment for graduate students, and for those undergrads who have been in my classes before, it's a very familiar assignment. That's why you're doing something different if you are an undergraduate student. So here we go. Basically what you're going to do is present a lesson to a group or an individual somewhere else using distance learning technologies. And you can use some pretty simple technologies to do this. As you know, probably, there are some tools out there that allow for this type of communication very easily, such as Skype or Google Hangouts. And you can use those lessons in order to, or those type of software in order to complete this assignment. So your job is to choose a lesson objective, and you're going to design and present a 20 to 30 minute distance technology lesson to another person or group. And so again, it's just kind of a simple one, I think, in a lot of ways. You're just going to have this presentation or lesson that you present to someone else. But you could use a variety of tools, but be sure to use one of those. You do not need to record this lesson, but you can ask for you should ask for feedback from your students when the lesson is over, telling you how they felt things went and how you can improve your synchronous distance teaching. And then you'll basically, after the lesson is over, well, you'll fill in part of it before the lesson starts and part of it afterward. So before the lesson starts, you'll insert these items such as what you plan to teach, name, lesson objective, date and time you started. And then you'll fill in these items after you're done, and then you'll submit this worksheet to me. So you'll fill in these items like when you completed the lesson, who were your students, what learning materials you used, what learning activities happened, what feedback did your students have about your distance teaching lesson, and then talk about how this is different than it might be if you were teaching face-to-face, what parts of your distance teaching do you feel went particularly well, and what would you do differently next time if you had a chance to teach from a distance. So you just fill in those items in the boxes provided here and then upload this worksheet to the Dropbox to complete this assignment. So of course the next few weeks of readings and also activities that you'll do will have to do with learning the tools and also learning the techniques for presenting live from a distance. And much of that we talk about in this unit is actually about social presence, because social presence really plays a big part of teaching and learning in this type of situation. So if you are an undergraduate student, this is the assignment. It's a little bit different but very similar. And let's have a look at it here. So you're going to choose an objective and design and present a 15 to 20 minute distance lesson to meet this objective synchronously to another student or group. Now what is different here is that you are going to use the Blackboard Collaborate system to present your lesson. And that is the Collaborate system that is built into Blackboard or into D2L that we use today. And so I actually have to help you by setting up a session or a room for you in order to get this to go. So you have to kind of schedule that a little bit in advance with me so that I can set up a room where you're the presenter and where other people can join. But that's no problem, I can set that up. And then what you're going to do also is to record your lesson using Collaborate's built-in recorder and give the recording to me when you're done. And so that's a little bit different. And I get to watch the recording, and then you'll fill in these answers or this part of the worksheet. The lesson objective, who were the people you presented to, what parts of your distance teaching went well, What feedback do they have about your distance teaching? So don't forget to also ask them for feedback at the end of the session. How did it go? What could I do better? And what would you do differently the next time you get a chance to teach from a distance? And what is the name of the recorded lesson so that the instructor can access and watch it? Because I think when you're done recording it, it actually gives me access to it, but you need to provide the name of it so that I know which one is which. So that's the undergraduate version of this, and you can access these by going to the last week in our unit on synchronous digital communication. So that's what we're moving toward, and in order to move toward that this week, you're going to start out by reading in the textbook about collaboration and community building, and then also this nice article about creating social presence. And you want to think about how you can create social presence in a live session. The topics or the tips that are given for creating social presence, I think they do relate to both synchronous, which is what we're doing in this unit, and asynchronous sessions, but it's good to think about those things. Then also during this week you'll have a few links here to talk about how to present in Talkie.io, how to set up and use Google Hangouts, how to present and collaborate, and getting started in Skype, and so forth. And these are some tools. You'll get a nice intro to some of these tools that you can use for synchronous digital communication. And we'll have a discussion this week also. I'm sorry I missed that presentation on social presence. And so you can watch a presentation about this concept of social presence and what it all means. And then social presence in digital communication. You'll provide 3 tips for practice in distance learning in this discussion that an instructor might use to increase social presence. So what are a couple of tips that an instructor can use to increase social presence in their presentations, and then respond to other students' posts? And then finally, I want to challenge you to go to this link for sharing flipped lessons, and from last week's assignments, go ahead and post a link to your flipped lessons if you're able to. So again, post that on here. Basically all you need to do is double click in the area, write your name, and then the topic of your flipped lessons, and then you can insert a link using this button right here and enter a URL. Or you can just paste a link right here in the text. I think you might need to paste at least one in the text to allow people to access them, because I think this will only allow one link down here. So put your name and put the linked flipped lessons. I think it'll be fun to share with other people, and if you share yours and see somebody else's on there, maybe you can take a look at how people have completed their flipped lessons, because there are some pretty good ones. So be sure to share a link to your flipped lessons, and that will give other people an opportunity to see what you created, and you an opportunity to see what they've created and share with one another. And that should be about it for this week. So good luck and get started.